It is Friday, June the 29th, and it is show number 23 as we move up to Wimbledon, which is knocking on the door, right?
Yeah, I'm excited.
You see that little square is what you were asking about the other day. So,
Yeah.
right, so I'm just making sure. Sometimes she has
I was
little,
looking at your green eyes, admiring them.
sometimes she has a problem looking into the camera, and you know, I try to tell her it's just a work in progress. Anyway, so we're going to start the show right off. There's a lot to discuss, actually. I didn't expect there to be that much to discuss today. The Wimbledon draws came out early, and it was something that was really exciting to see. There's a lot of really good matches. For us, though, the most important part about doing this every day is to spark discussion from you, the viewer. Is that the whole point of doing this in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would like for someone to do it. So I would love to hear more about tennis.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one thing to watch your tennis channel, or not them, I guess, understood, and I'm not pointing directly to them, but we don't get any tennis coverage, and that we do, we're forced to listen and really can't say much in return. So we do this really for us because we talk tennis all the time, but we want to include all of you. So I had a user or a viewer, and the name was Ferzy, Ferz09, and this individual made a really good point, and this is in reflection to a video that we did yesterday that involved at least a little bit of Serena having dodged, quote unquote, not my words, but that's the mainstream media's words, having dodged yet drug test number 2. Myself and Carla are big Serena fans, and I think sometimes because we're huge fans of Serena that we become not objective, and we think more because we're a fan that maybe we're not thinking objectively. So the user, Ferzy, and I really appreciate this because it got my mind going, and I think that isn't that why we live and breathe every day, is to get our minds going, right?
Yeah, definitely. After he made that comment, I actually started doing some research on what happened several years ago and just now, and basically you could say his comment, and then we'll talk about that after.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a big shout out to this user, Ferz09, because I looked back at the video and realized that maybe I was not being objective. In other words, because I was thinking in my head that because I'm such a big fan, am I ruling out the reasons why maybe Serena is being targeted for these drug tests? And this is what I'm referring to. So again, yesterday we were discussing Serena and missing a drug test, and what should we think about it? Not pro, not con, not taking sides at all, but just talking about it, right?
Right, but she didn't miss a drug test because technically, if the person that is sent to do these drug tests on them, if they're not there, the player's not there, or they were not able to take the test, it does not count against that player.
Yes, and just to give much respect to Ferzy09, the comment is the only reason, or the reason why Williams is under suspicion is because of a track record. Now, this is not a pro or con statement. This is perfectly down the middle, ambiguous, and just factual. Has had several TUEs, which stands for therapeutic use exemptions, in the past, and then we had an incident when she went into a kind of a hiding room or a panic room at a home where a drug tester showed up. This is not a pro comment. This is not a con comment. But as Carl and I were discussing yesterday, we were saying, leave the girl alone, you're picking on her, and so forth. Yet we both remembered these comments once we read them again. So if it wasn't for Ferzy bringing them back up, they were blocked out in my mind, and I do recall them. But I think I chose to unconsciously ignore them.
Well, I completely forgot about it. I mean, I did some research on why she was exempt. You know, it says she took several things because she was sick. One of them was oxycodone. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with any of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the medications are irrelevant.
There were some medications that she was exempt from. Her and her sister, actually.
Yeah, so again, this isn't to stir the pot in a positive direction or a negative direction. we again were just discussing yesterday, and we were kind of upset that they kept bugging Serena. So what the issue is there are some medical or some prescription medications. We won't get into what necessarily they are. Some for pain and some for inflammations. There some type of prednisone type steroids. You know, all relatively minor. We're athletes. We hurt, and you have to have things. I understand that. I've been through some surgeries on my own. Repeated use, though, is one of those things that can cause issues from an addictive standpoint and from an advantageous physically standpoint. So I think once I got into looking at the comment and saying, hey, wait a minute, is this fair or is this not fair, whether it's true or not? I don't know. I'm not judge or jury, but the way I look at it is if someone goes to the doctor because they're sick or don't feel well or hurt, okay, great. You have to get what you need to get back to being healthy. However, I think most of the tennis players in the world, whether recreational or professional, all hurt in some way, shape, or form. So if they don't get it, is it really fair that this person gets it? I think they should be tested. I really do, because let's say I get a cold, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say I get a cough, I get a cold, I don't feel well. I go to the doctor, I get a prednisone steroid, and I get some type of pain medication, and so forth. All right, well, great. Well, let's say I'm number 200 in the world, and this steroid that I took does, even though I'm sick, gives me an advantage to an extent because it is helping me, and it does take some of my pain away in other places, and thus is helping me. It helps me sleep better that night. Meanwhile, number 200 in the world, who can't pay their own medical insurance, has got the same cold with the same hurt knees, if not worse, and the same hurt elbow, and yet they get nothing because they can't afford it. So is there a juggle with that? I mean, it's a tough juggle.
Well, Justin, you should be exempt if you have a doctor's note. If you went to the doctor and you're legitimately sick, then yeah, you should be exempt. Why not?
What if I can afford the doctor and you can't?
Isn't that how most of America is, though? There are people who have insurance and there are others that don't. It's not fair. The world is not fair.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I mean, if she was exempt, and maybe let's say Sharapova was sick, she should be able to have the same type of treatment. Any other player. And then as far as what I forgot about the panic room, you know, that she locked herself up because she thought it was an intruder. She called 911 and it turned out to be one of the drug testers. I don't really want to say too much on that. I mean, you could look at it both ways.
Yeah.
Not on purpose or not, or maybe she thought really someone was.
Yeah, so yes, she's right about that. I mean, upon further research, there was an incident, I think out west at her place, where there was someone that came to her door. She thought it was an intruder. She runs into a panic room, locks the door, calls 911. They come, and lo and behold, it's a random drug tester. So not a big deal. It happens, I guess. But then we have a similar altercation yesterday, or incident yesterday.
On 14. It was June 14 at 8:30 a.m. They're supposed to show up unannounced. First of all, I think the time is a little bit too early to show up at 8:30. You know what I'm saying? Why don't you show up at noon? Show up at 1. Show up at 2. 8:30 in the morning?
Well, again,
how do you feel someone knocking on your door at 8:30 in the morning?
Look, again,
I'm just asking. If someone knocked on your door.
I'm going to tell you.
Doesn't matter if it's a drug tester. Anybody. How would you feel?
So I'm going to tell you the answer to this. If it were me on my 5 children income that has not much of anything, I would be upset. Why are you bugging me? But if I'm a 23-time Grand Slam champion that's a $100 million athlete with the biggest sponsors from Nike to Wilson in the world, I think I would have to accept the fact that someone might be knocking at my door at 8:30 in the morning to pee in a cup. Because at the end of the day, I've been through that in different rodeos in my life where I had people knocking on my door at 8:30 in the morning to pee in a cup, and I had to swallow my pride and deal with it. So, at the same time, I get it if there's one time where you think it's a burglar, but now we got another altercation. I'm not saying anybody's guilty, but I'm saying when you're a 23-time, or 24, whatever it is,
23.
Grand Slam major winner, many more in terms of doubles and so forth, Masters 1000s and so forth. When you're that superhuman, can you really expect to not get necessarily targeted?
You know, to me, I think the solution here for all these athletes, why not test them after a match? You can't get away. You have no excuse. Why not? It would be so much easier than someone coming unannounced to knock on your door. Test them. Pick pick any match they have, any tournament, test them right after.
All right, so hey, I'm going to take a quick break from this topic because it's getting heated here. The point of this show was to talk about this, thanks to, again, Furzy09, with just some great factual information that helped me kind of see from a objective standpoint both sides of the story. Again, no guilt, no pros, no cons, but very good knowledge generating thought there.
Well, he did also say another comment. He also said that doping was a problem.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that. I went from wanting to do just a Wimbledon show today to this discussion that someone that really helped my mind go, and I think that's great. It's always nice to be intrigued by something. So, again, we're going to probably do a part 2 of the show and finish it tomorrow. That involves the Wimbledon draws and our fantasy teams. The Wimbledon draws came out today, so we'll get to that. But we're going to get back to this discussion. So here's the thing that another comment that this viewer mentioned, and it was another good comment, that they think that doping is a problem in tennis. I agree. I think it's a problem in every sport out there. Let me tell you some of the letdowns I've had as a sports enthusiast since I was a child. Let's go ahead and start with, let's say the biggest one of all, Lance Armstrong. I mean, I'm not a bike rider, but I admired his Live Strong and the whole deal, and had the bracelets and the shirts and everything, only to find out it was a fraud. Let's talk about Jose Canseco. Let's talk about Mark McGuire. Let's talk about Sammy Sosa. Let's talk about Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod. Let's talk about the track stars such as Marion Jones and Ben Johnson. These are people that I watched as a kid and wanted to emulate in terms of their training and make it relevant into footwork and tennis, only to find out it was all a farce. So, again, the facts are the facts. When you have someone that's superhuman, Sammy Sosa and McGuire went like, 71 and 72 home runs? I mean, just went way out of the park. And everybody's like, oh, they're superhuman, they're superhuman. Well, if you're doing some superhuman things that not many other players or athletes do, shouldn't that make you at least susceptible to more dope tests? I mean, if I'm Serena and I've won 23 majors and the nearest competitor on the map today in tennis has what, a handful? And you got 23? I mean, because it's so far off the norm, I think it deserves some extra attention, right, Furzy09? I mean, I think it deserves extra attention. I'm not saying destroy her life, but when you have 23 majors and everyone else in the field, at best, the best in the world, have a handful, is it out of the norm just to go pee in the cup? And if we're having panic rooms and if we're having problems at the door when you get there, I mean, I think it at least makes it worth discussing.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for Serena to do that. But then again, Justin, what separates Serena Williams from the rest of the field is one thing: her serve. Her serve is so much better than other women out there. Their serve is not reliable. To Serena, since she's been young, since I can remember watching her playing for the Reebok team, she always looked strong. She was built double the size of what a normal girl was built. And she was born like that. So I think a lot of people judge it by the way she looks. They automatically think, oh, she's doing something. She's on steroids. Sorry, I have to,
Yeah, I mean,
they do the same thing with Nadal. I mean, Nadal's also been in that subject where he's looked bigger at some tournaments and then he looks a bit smaller,
Yeah, good point, because it was around 2010 time frame. I think Nadal was playing the U.S. Open. No allegations, obviously none whatsoever, and not going there. Her favorite player is Nadal. One of my favorites is Nadal. But when he went from around the 2008 time, or 2008 season where he won Wimbledon, trickled into 2009, kind of faded away a little bit. Not a little bit. I mean, he was still French and so forth, but his overall season wasn't as strong as it was then. And all of a sudden, I see him in 2010 at the U.S. Open, donning all black and gold, if I remember, and he was stacked. Boom! And just, I wasn't it 2010 where he won?
I don't remember.
Somewhere in there. But, again, I think just because of the days and times in which we live, I think with all the people that we have in this world that are all struggling to get an edge, no matter what it is, whether it's at work or your neighbor or I want a bigger boat than what you have.
Everybody wants to be bigger than the other person, which is really sad. I mean, I hate that we have this problem, this doping problem, because it's telling kids you got to cheat to be the best, and that's not good.
But yet, I think the gist of us are trying to get through this life in which we live, which involves bills and egos and so much more, especially with social media and so forth. It becomes a very treacherous road to walk on, and I think everybody's looking to just to get through. And unfortunately, when it gets to $100 million athletes that have 3 times, 4 times more the ability than everybody else, I think it's fair enough to say, hey, you might get more drug tests than somebody else.
Well, they should tell them that, because, I mean, I did look at the numbers. Sloane Stephens has been tested twice this year. Madison Keys, once. The rest of the American fields, Coco, 0. Allison Risk, 0. So they haven't even targeted these players. My guess is they're targeting Serena because, well, she is the best. And I really hope that nothing comes out of this. I would hate for Serena's career to be ruined because she did something she wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, really a sad thought. And again, I don't expect anything to come out of such things. Again, Serena to me is a wonderful athlete, if not the best of all time. And I think as long as this is all just stuff for the media, these accusations and allegations, as long as it is just that, she to me is the best athlete of all time across men's and women's. However, if humans go on as we have all been going for thousands of years, after let's say her career is done and her trainers' careers are done and her publicist's career, eventually those people write their memoirs and books. If it really has happened, we will know one way or the other. Until then, I'm going to keep an even playing field. We just wanted the facts to be the facts. Again, we're Serena fans. We love you. We really hope you do well. I really try to believe in this world that we live in. We're all still innocent until proven guilty, and not the other way around.
Yes.
So for now, I'm going to say go Serena. Thank you, Furzy09, for reminding us that because we're fans, that we need not to look at the actual facts and be sympathetic to someone that really should be not targeted, but fed a few more drug tests, just simply how much better they are than everybody else.
Well, I've got to say a few things too. Also, this information wouldn't have been out if it wasn't for a third party, which shame on them. I mean, why are you going to go blab your mouth around? You know, you just want your name out there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Justin. I don't like it at all. Look, Henin retired without any warning, and there's a lot of suspicion about that. There are a lot of players. Hingis retired the second time because of a possible drug, test that she failed.
Yeah.
So if we see Serena retiring soon, it'll be a big question mark.
Yeah, I watched Henin play the final at the U.S. Open in New York in 2007. She won that, if I remember correctly. It was against Kuznetsova. At the end of the day, though, for her to retire so much after, sure, it could have been one thing or another. There was allegations about some potential doping stuff. I stood next to her, hit with some of her trainers on that day on an outer court at the USTA tennis court complex there. So she was, never spoke to her, but she walked right by, a little capris and a gray shirt, and took pictures. And she was just a little thing, but she wasn't anything. I don't see how even doping would help her, because she really wasn't a big girl at all, really kind of a small thing. So I don't even want to bring that up, but yeah, there was allegations there. There was allegations with Hingis. I mean, how many players right now have? I think there's a British player that can't even come on tour right now.
Well, there's a British player, Evans. Evans couldn't. Yeah. They would not. They refused to give him the wild card because of he was suspended for a while, and he lost, I think, in the second round, and he's not even a lucky loser at Wimbledon, and he's playing for his home country, and they wouldn't give him, because of doping. So yeah, it's a serious problem.
It's a problem, and yes, Furzy09, I think it's a problem in tennis, and I think it's also a problem in every sport under the sun, probably even ping pong. No disrespect to that, I love ping pong too.
Wow.
Just saying, I like to wail on the ping pong ball. So, in ending in this conversation, a couple of parting questions. Do superhuman athletes, as we think, or we say that. Say the LeBron Jameses of basketball. Say the Jordans of basketball. Say the Federers and the Serenas and the Nadals of tennis. The Michael Phelps of swimming. The Lance Armstrongs of biking. Do these people, because they are superhuman and so far above everyone else athletically, physically, and mentally, do they deserve to be targeted more? That's not a discussion that we're going to continue. We've already talked about this now. Is it fair? If I'm a $100 million athlete winning 20 majors, and I've trained as hard as you, and I've won 0 majors, and I'm worth about 500 grand, shouldn't... Look, I'm not going to get into it, but if you're a $200 million, $100 million athlete, you should expect to have someone at your door taking a piss cup. Because if you're cheating all of us around that much coverage, sponsorship, and money, you deserve to be, I guess you could say, suspended or judged based upon that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if I was in Serena's shoes, I wouldn't have problem peeing in the cup.
Yeah,
if I'm innocent.
Yeah,
I have nothing to hide.
Yeah, just welcome the dude in. Say, hey man, sit down. Let me drink some water. I'll pee for you real quick. You know, let me get you a beer, a glass of grape juice, whatever your thing is. Just get it over with. The panic room, and now this altercation at the door. Just, geez, man, I love you, girl. I really hope that this is really just you being mom that's tired and didn't want to deal with it. Moving forward. Are Federer and Nadal tested as much with 20 majors and 17 respectively? Do they have people at their doors every day knowing that no one else is one even close except Djokovic at 13?
I've never heard of Federer ever having a problem. I've heard Nadal being tested a lot, yes.
Didn't Agassi mention in his book that he was involved with something of sorts?
Oh yeah, Agassi did write a book about that. I mean, and they still respect him. I'm not sure why. I mean, to me, he cheated.
All right, so there is a term that I was not familiar with until, again, shout out to Furzy09. I was not familiar with the TUE, which stands for Therapeutic Use Exemption. If, again, and we touched on this at the beginning, if I get sick and I go to the doctor and my lung hurts and I get a narcotic painkiller for my pain in my chest and my knee hurts at the same time, it helps that. Maybe I can go back in the weight room now that I can breathe better. Anyway, I'm making up a metaphor to the sense that, you know, someone that's 430 in the world probably doesn't have health insurance, probably has no doctor on payroll, has no way to get an MRI, just lays in their respective bed at night wondering if they have a messed up knee or if it's just swollen, and they have no way of telling. Is it really fair that the best of the best get doctors on payroll? And I'm not saying that the medications are used. Prednisone, mild steroid. Painkillers, okay, hopefully they're not addictive to the athlete. But what about the guy or woman on the same tour that's ranked so far away that they couldn't even imagine having that type of help? How is that fair?
It's life's unfair, like I said. You know, unfortunately, it's always the rich get the best, and those that are not so privileged don't. I mean, I would think that being in professional sports, even if you were ranked 1,000, that they would have a few doctors and staff, if not up, you know, to check them out. I don't know. I think this could be so much easier. We'd have less doping problems too if they had someone drug testing them there. And here's the other thing. Sharapova took something that was allowed and then it was banned. But she was suspended.
I'm going to push out of this conversation. Again, it is something that I really want to thank, someone I really want to thank again is Furzy09 for helping us get back to an objective thought process. My mind has not changed about Serena Williams.
Neither has mine.
Unless something does come out in time. If there has been issues, someone will write their memoirs and will know. But I agree with you 100% about the facts, and there has been some very sketchy doings, and I don't blame the testers to be there. However, if it's truly just targeting, and there is no wrongdoing, and then I don't blame her, Serena, for saying, man, look, I'm tired, I've had enough, just go away. At the same time, though, I do think there needs to be equality amongst all players for the type of treatment they get, and maybe like a universal group of doctors that only they can see, just the players. I don't know how it will work. It's a really crazy conundrum, but thanks again for this topic, and this show is for you. I mean, absolutely. there's still a lot more to go. So I'm going to do a quick score recap today from Eastbourne. We had Misha Zverev playing Kukushkin. It was in a second set when I did this score. I didn't delay doing the show for that score because, again, Misha Zverev, again, could be an unseeded player for me in Wimbledon. Kukushkin could be a good unseeded player for me for Wimbledon. It's just going to depend on how the draws are. And I do have the draws, and she has her draws right here for Wimbledon. You got them?
Yes, I do.
All right. So we also had Lacko today that beat Cecchinato 3-4. No big deal there for me. I don't have Lacko, and I'll have to look more at the draw. I see his name up top. Lacko's playing Bonzi from France, Benjamin Bonzi. I've never heard of him, but I won't have Lacko in my draw, and nor there more than likely Misha or Kukushkin.
Misha's in a good spot, actually. Very good spot.
Misha is the
Yes, yes.
All right, so today in women's, we had Wozniacki that saved match points against Kerber, and Wozniacki lost the first set 2-6, won the second 7-6, and then the third 6-4. Wozniacki will more than likely make my Wimbledon team once we do our draws.
Same here. I like that she beat a powerful player. That says a lot to me.
Let's go next. Sabalenka. We've been talking about her, or I have been talking about her, and she's been laughing at me for maybe the past week and a half now. Sabalenka beat Radwanska today in 3-6-3, 1-6, 6-3. My only problem with Sabalenka for Wimbledon is I think she faces
Bucharnescu.
Yes.
Tough.
So Sabalenka, this Belarus young girl, I would say like the younger of Azarenka per se. Azarenka's in here somewhere. I haven't seen it yet. But she plays Bucharnescu, the prodigy of, let's say, Halep, the Romanian girl. So I really wanted to pick Sabalenka as my unseeded player, but she's meeting my other potential unseeded player in the first round. I'm like, whoa, so that threw my whole equilibrium off, right?
Yes, it did for you, yes.
All right, so I'm going to think about that, but we have a Wozniacki-Sabalenka final tomorrow. I don't dwell too much into that final. Whether Wozniacki wins that or Sabalenka wins that, I wouldn't be surprised if Sabalenka won it and Wozniacki was like, hey, if I don't win this 2-2 easily, I'm just going to give it to you because I'm fixing to start Wimbledon and I plan to win type deal.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't study that too much. Wozniacki has had a good grass court run. She, I think, is going to be on my team. All right, today in Turkey, Monterino, the Frenchman, beat the other Frenchman, Monfils, 4-6, 7-6, 6-4. I like Monfils, Monterino I like too, both veterans, but I'm sorry it could not have been a worse score and a longer match. Monfils, if you were going to be on my Wimbledon team, I was hoping you'd roll through that like 3-3, and then maybe put you on my team because you went 3 with Manarino. Not that he's bad; he's a good player. But man, I don't know. It may be like Donald Young time and just start trying to think about kids in the future or something. I don't know.
My gosh. I don't know. My son's thinking about picking him. So we'll see.
Which son? What? Jonathan? Jonathan's thinking about picking Monfils?
Yes.
All right. So in Turkey today. That was the only news. A gentleman by the name of Dzumur, Dzhumur, defeated Vesely. I might have to look at him from unseeded players, Dzumur, but again, Turkey, Manarino being the 1 seed, I don't know. All right, so we are running out of time. This was all supposed to be one show, but once I got on the research kick looking at what TUEs are and got my brainstorming and realized that if I'm delivering or we are delivering news, it needs to be objective and not biased. So once I started getting the facts from this side and that side and what's right and what's not and how do we figure it out, I ended up doing a whole video, or we ended up doing a whole video on it. So we have for tomorrow's show, big stuff. Wimbledon draws are out, male and female. So some first round notable matches. Benoit Pierre versus Murray. The American Sandgren against Djokovic. Ouch, Sandgren. Gasquet versus Monfils, Wawrinka versus Dimitrov, Tiafoe versus Verdasco. Serena plays in a Ronxaroos. I used to love a Ronxaroos.
I feel bad for her.
I used to love a Ronxaroos. Aranxa Rus could beat Serena. Be ready, Serena. Remember, this girl, Aranxa, she's got game. Shapovalov, Chardy, Zvonareva, her pick, ended up with Kerber in the first round. Ouch.
Yeah, that's going to change my mind, I think.
The Swedish girl, Basinski, against Allison Risk. Ooh, be careful, Risk. She's tricky. So we're going to do our draws tonight. We're going to do a complete first round, second round, third round, fourth round, quarterfinals, round of 16, quarterfinals, and semifinals, and project the winner and give those to you tomorrow. And Carla and I are going to go head-to-head. I plan to win. I've won this Wimbledon competition the past 4 years, I think, maybe
Yes,
5.
Yes, but I think you'll lose this year.
So
And then to all the people that do Grand Slam fantasy tennis, come on, you guys have to participate. We can't let Justin win this year.
Yeah, I mean, participate. Go to GrandSlamFantasyTennis.com. It's not our site. There is no paid advertisements, anything like that. We have just done a fantasy team here for about 8 years, maybe 7 years, something like that. And we just pick our teams there and we see who wins. So if not, you don't have the time to do so, then you can watch us butt heads about who's going to win. And I plan to win. Let's go!
Well, at least you can win at that and not at the tennis court, so.
So we will get back for tomorrow.
Actually, you obviously missed that one.
Oh, what did I miss?
I said he could win at the fantasy group thing, but not in tennis.
Oh, yeah, right. All right, so we're at 31 minutes. I'm going to stay mute because when we get into that whole who wins conversation, I really kind of get upset. I get mad. And look,
well, you should use that anger on the court.
It's like hot out here. Look, it's hot. I don't know if you can tell that I'm soaked in sweat. I got my dollar store glasses on because I sat on my other ones. I got this little nagging thing right here that when I serve, it's not even my dominant hand. It's like when I toss, it's like right here. So my ability to whip her, you know what, is on hold. So we went out and hit today. I couldn't quite still toss because of some. Anyway, she's been talking all this junk. Talking all this smack. I tried to serve underhanded playing King of the Hill the other day, and I got drilled. So since she drilled me serving underhanded playing King of the Hill, now I'm up. How is? I mean,
in our tennis matches, I'm Serena and he's Maria Sharapova. That says it all.
What? That's not even a good comparison.
The record says it all, babe.
Look, if I had to characterize myself, it would be me, and I would just be kicking your off the court. I don't have to I don't have to make up a metaphor.
Okay.
Seriously.
All right.
I'll destroy you.
Okay, you wish.
You won't do anything.
So go ahead.
Oh, man, look, I chip balls to you because I know you can't get there, and I don't want to feel sorry for you if you have to run too far.
I can't get there. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, you really want to get that?
Go ahead. Let's finish the show.
This isn't over. All right. Anyway, it's time to take the kids out to train them. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe below. I wanted to do the entire Wimbledon draw today, go through it, discuss it, but we had a great viewer that just, again, relayed facts, nothing pro, nothing con, just simply this is why that there may be some I guess some leaning on more drug testing one than the other. So thank you for that. It was really enlightening, and we hear every side of the story instead of just leaning on the side that we wish to believe. So thank you, Furzy09, for that. Definitely appreciate you watching. You made us have a whole educational day, and I think no matter what, that's the most important.
Definitely.
Thank you, man. Or young lady. See ya. Oh, wait a minute. As Carla always says,
Adios.
Adios.